In Fire and Ashes, your book, you say that nothing will cause you more trouble in politics than telling the truth. In a world where new technologies have amplified the possibilities of what we call reality, and the information is highly manipulated, how would you define truth?
I don't know whether I can define truth, but I believe there is such a thing as truth. I believe I'm in a room with you. It has a marble floor. Madrid is outside. You are female, I am male, you're wearing a black dress. There are certain indisputable facts about our situation which you can agree with. I don't feel we're in a relativist world in which what I see is not what you see. I think that way madness lies. But we do have a problem with truth. We have a kind of epistemological crisis. The explosion of media means we get an incredible richness of supply of competing information. Our solution to the problem of the proliferation of information has been to enclose ourselves in kind of filter bubbles in which I get one constructed reality and you get another constructed reality, and that creates the epistemological problem. But I don't think the facts about what is true are in doubt. I don't believe we're all in a kind of, it's all just, we're lost in a world of a hall of mirrors. I don't think that. But we've got an explosion of information at zero cost. I mean, it costs nothing to disseminate this information. And so suddenly, our politics is divided by competing sources of information that mean that we as citizens have a duty to find out what's true that even 20 years ago was not there.
Some say that chatbots are almost human. Some have best friends who are chatbots. Then what is the qualities that define a human and not a machine?
Well, one of our problems is the very use of the word intelligence in the words artificial intelligence. We've confused intelligence and computation. These machines are engaged in extremely sophisticated acts of mechanical computation. It has nothing to do with human intelligence. Human intelligence is different. At this moment, as you and I talk, I'm receiving a stream of data from you as a person. Only some of it is verbal. Some of it is your gaze, your eyes, the way you're nodding your head, this and that. And like any human being, I'm kind of sizing up the situation as you are sizing up the situation. And that is a display of human intelligence. That's what human beings do just effortlessly. No machine can do this. If you were sitting in front of a machine would not be able to be doing what I'm doing. And I'm worried that by reducing intelligence to computation and by saying already machines have human intelligence, we've given away the game. And there is a threat to our very definition of what it is to be human when we do that. The human intelligence is, we're trained over millennia to assemble all of that picture of each other effortlessly without even thinking about it. And machines are not embodied in a human physical organism. We also have memories which are coded from our childhood, which are singular. Machines don't have singular personality. They're machines. They're like every other machine built the same way. You are an unrepeatable instance of a human being. You're not just a woman, you're you, and I am me, and these things are distinctively human. And I just think we're being subjected to a kind of ideological barrage about AI, which is falsifying what it is to be human and what it is to be intelligent. And we've got to fight back. There are things that computationally artificial intelligence can do, which we can't. I don't want to be heard to be saying artificial intelligence is the enemy. Properly used, it can do things that we can't. But it can't replicate human intelligence. It just can't, in my view. And I don't see how it ever can. This is not just a question of it hasn't got enough computational power yet. I think there's a logical limit, because it's not going to be embodied in a physical body the way we are. It just isn't, in my view. So we want to use artificial intelligence, but we want to keep it under control and retain our respect for what's properly human.
You say that there is a huge gap between social expectations and the revenue-raising capacity of the liberal state. Maybe we could see that one possible solution to this dilemma is to numb the people with technology. Who benefits from a society where young people live glued to their phones and walk as zombies without motivation or will?
Yes, I occasionally look at young people in their 20s walking up the street, not looking at me, but looking at their phones, and think, you're going to hit the lamppost or you're going to walk into the traffic, but this is no way to live your life. But I don't believe one of the characteristics of human beings is that it's very difficult to crush their social expectations. Totalitarian systems have done so. But if you look at Soviet Russia in the 1960s and 70s, expectations were crushed, and yet people knew that they were being crushed. They looked across to a Western world that was much freer, and their expectations began to push against the system. Social expectations are pretty stubborn. I think we have a lot of young men especially, but also young women, growing up without hope, without purpose, without a direction in life. But I think that is a much bigger problem than just technology. Technology gets them through the day, but the real problem is that it's very difficult to start a family life. It's very difficult to afford an apartment. It's very difficult to get a good job. There are substantial social and economic obstacles to getting into the world. It's always difficult to get into the world from adolescence to young adulthood. That's a transition time that's difficult across cultures and across time. And we're making it much more difficult. And there is, everybody says, a kind of epidemic of loneliness. I'm astonished, for example, this is a surprising thing. In the 60s, when I was 21, all we wanted to do was have sex. And it was fantastic because the pill had just come in, and we grabbed that opportunity for sexual experience. And now I seem to discover from the statistics that young people are having less and less sex. Well, that's a very bad sign. That's a very bad sign. We need human connection. We need connection between bodies, and I don't know the reasons for that, but I think it goes deeper than just technology.
How would you assess the current state of freedom of expression in democratic countries such as Spain or Canada?
I think the question I ask about that is, and it's a question I ask myself, is do I think for myself? I have freedom. I have institutional freedom. Nobody is trying to abridge my rights to free speech. But if I ask myself, do I really think for myself? I think it's a struggle. I often feel I'm just recycling what I've read from some other person cleverer than me. And I think that's the challenge of freedom in a free society, is to think for yourself. It's as difficult as ever. I teach for a living. My job as a teacher is to teach young people to think for themselves. Do I succeed? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are substantial pressures on freedom of thought and freedom of expression.
Yeah.
But the most pervasive threat is just the power of majority opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a problem.
Mm-hmm.
In the 19th century, Alexis de Tocqueville and John Stuart Mill said that it's our instinct to conform that is the real threat to freedom of thought and freedom of opinion. It's not tyranny as much as it is. I mean,
Yeah.
tyranny is a problem. But the real problem is our desire to be liked, our desire to be approved, our desire to say things where everybody says, oh, yes, you're right. Very few of us have the courage to say something that somebody else is going to disagree with. And that's the core of the problem, it seems to me. So I've spent my whole life trying to think for myself, and I honestly ask myself how often I've actually had an original personal thought that and stuck to it in the face of opposition. Not often, not often.
What happens with those minorities that don't interest the political power? You know this well because you are Canadian. You know the minorities such as the Innu.
Yeah.
Is artificial intelligence like the ultimate colonization?
There is research that shows, for example, that a number of minority languages, small linguistic communities, are not represented in the AI search machines at all. That is increasing bias towards English language sources, for example. Not just minority languages, very small ones, but possibly Spanish, a great global language, is less equitably represented in the search engines than English. So, I mean, those are real problems. If you then look at Aboriginal communities in Canada, an example I would know, their internet access is not nearly as good. The incorporation of their language and their experience into our search engines is not as good. There is no doubt there is a risk that we're creating a new forms of servitude, new forms of discrimination, new forms of injustice as these technologies develop. And what's the solution? Aboriginal communities are going to have to make a lot of noise, bang the table, bang the drum, and enlist the support of people who agree that they need to be represented. You can't have a democracy if whole groups of people are digitally disadvantaged. And so that's a problem we'll have to fix.
So it's on their side, the ball.
Yes, but it always is. It always is. And we should never give up on people's capacity to respond to injustice that affects their vital interests. When people's vital interests are affected, they fight. And that's democracy. And that's how progress happens. And so I'm not pessimistic about these things. People will fight. Good for them.